Welcome to the Courageous Faith Vacation Bible School. We're going to be taking an epic 5-day adventure looking into the life of Daniel and his friends and the type of courageous faith that they had to withstand their circumstances. And it's the same faith that God still desires us to have. And like his friends and Daniel, we will be learning how God will take care of us no matter what situations we are in. First, we're going to make a couple of announcements. Announcement number 1. Each child has been sent home with 2 folders like this, labeled day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. Each day is filled with activities that correspond with the lessons that day. Each child will complete the activity sheets and bring it to us on Friday during the revival. Each lesson will correspond with a bookmarked Bible verse that each child can memorize. On Friday during the revival, the kids who learned the most amount of Bible verses that corresponded with the lessons will receive a prize. Announcement number 3, there will be a VBS theme song, Echo, by Torrin Wells and Elevation Worship that we will be practicing each day throughout the VBS. After this announcement, we are gonna practice the theme song so you guys can start to learn the words, and tomorrow during the Zoom Vacation Bible School, we are gonna practice it again together.
Yeah.
to the marketplace in Babylon. I've got fruit for your Daniel diet. Grapes were his favorite. That's what I've heard. And I'm pretty sure that's correct. I've got oranges for the Daniel diet. He was really big on fruits. Fruits, that's all it was. But, let me stop for a second. You got to get to the story first and find out what this is even all about.
Jehoiakim had been king of Judah for only 3 years when the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, attacked Jerusalem. King Nebuchadnezzar conquered the holy city and took many sacred objects from the temple and took them home with him to add to the treasures kept in the house of the king's false god. In addition to the sacred treasures, the conquering army took many prisoners along with them when they left Jerusalem. King Nebuchadnezzar commanded his chief of staff to bring into his palace young captives who could serve in his court. These young men needed to be strong, healthy, good-looking, and well-educated. To show his favor to these young men and to keep them well-fed, the king ordered that they receive food and wine each day that was prepared in his royal kitchens. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were 4 of the young men chosen, all of whom were from the tribe of Judah. The chief of staff renamed them with Babylonian names. Daniel was called Belteshazzar, Hananiah was called Shadrach, Mishael was called Meshach, and Azariah was called Abednego. Even though Daniel was selected to serve King Nebuchadnezzar, he wouldn't eat the food from the king's kitchens because it was forbidden by God. To refuse the king's goodwill was a bold and potentially dangerous move for Daniel, but the chief of staff liked him. While he was willing to let Daniel eat different food, he worried that this diet would cause Daniel to become unhealthy. He said to Daniel, "The king will kill me if you get weak and sick." Daniel spoke with the attendant who had been appointed by the chief of staff to look after Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. "Please test us for 10 days on a diet of vegetables and water," Daniel said. "At the end of the 10 days, see how we look compared to the other young men who are eating the king's food. Then make your decision in light of what you see." The attendant agreed to Daniel's suggestion and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and stronger than the other young men who had been eating the king's food. After this, the attendant fed the 4 young men only vegetables and water. Because the young men's decision honored God's law, the Lord blessed them with wisdom and understanding. Daniel was given the special ability to interpret dreams. When the training period ordered by the king was completed, the chief of staff brought all the young men to King Nebuchadnezzar. No one impressed the king as much as Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, so they were brought into the royal service. Whenever the king consulted them in any matter requiring wisdom and balanced judgment, he found them 10 times more capable than any of the magicians and enchanters in his entire kingdom.
Was and his friends, and why they're such a big deal now here in Babylon. So Daniel stayed true to his faith and his beliefs despite the potential consequences of his actions. So the main point, witnessing well. Daniel's bold stance to continue following God while in captivity, despite pressure and potential harm, allowed God to show his power to people who did not believe in him. His actions showed that those who obey the Lord are blessed. The second point, power of convictions. Daniel showed his firm belief in following God's law by standing up to a king who would have killed him for his disobedience. Daniel knew that it was far more important to obey God. The other point, bold faith, which is what we all need to have. Daniel knew what was right. He stood up for his beliefs, and God blessed him and his friends for their bold statement in the face of danger. So, the big idea, what everyone's talking about here in Babylon, is that being a witness for God requires us to hold tightly to our faith and stand bravely for what is right. We're going to pull out our bookmark memory verses and read it together. It says, Daniel the captivity, Daniel chapter 1, verse 8. But Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank. One more time. So this is the memory verse that we're going to learn for today. Daniel chapter 1, verse 8. But Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank.